Hello! Have you got microbore pipework on your radiators? And some of your radiators just do not get hot no matter what you've tried doing. In this video, I'm going to show you the most common reason why a group of radiators supplied with microbore pipework may not be getting hot. Now, this customer had asked me to replace their old combination boiler with a new Ballard Ecotech Pro boiler. Part of the job when installing a new boiler is to flush out the old system and try and remove as much of the magnetite that might be in the old system. Now, all the radiators upstairs, they were flushed out fine, but when I came to flush the downstairs radiators, I could get hardly any flow through the radiators and flush them out. Now, when I questioned the homeowner about this, they told me that the radiators downstairs for the last couple of years, they have not been getting hot at all, which kind of tells me that there is a blockage somewhere in the pipework. Now, I was pretty sure where that blockage was going to be, so in this video I'm going to show you where you're likely to find that blockage and what to do to go about clearing it. Just before I get on with the video, I want to quickly let you know that down in the description I've got lots of links to other help videos which I've made to help you with your gas boilers and your central heating. Things like changing a leaking radiator valve, how to use smart controls and install them, and of course how to make your system more efficient to reduce your gas bill. So do check those videos out. Right, now let's get on with finding this blockage. So first of all, I've just finished fitting this brand new Ballard Ecotech Pro 28. And part of the installation is to flush out the original system and make sure it's nice and clean, so there's no chance that any magnetite or any of the little bits and bobs that could be in the central heating system can go into our brand new boiler. Now, this system is actually really clean, as you can see by this water which is coming out after being flushed around the system. Now, just to demonstrate what I mean by a dirty system, here's a system which had say been flushed out, and yet every radiator was chock-a-block with that black magnetite, which, like I said, is the enemy of your boiler and system. And this system took extensive flushing to get it anywhere near clean. Now, this is a crazy little flushing tool which I made many years ago, and I think it is one of the best ways to flush out the central heating system. And yes, I've tried flushing pumps and magnetic flushing systems, and I still think that this method works the best. Now, the first thing I want you to note is that the boiler is still isolated, so both these valves are closed and no water has been put into the boiler as yet. So first of all, I want to make sure that the central heating system is nice and clean before I go opening those valves. Now, depending on the system, I add a couple of additional fittings onto the flow and return pipework, and also a fitting onto the cold water inlet. I then connect my device onto the flow pipework, the return pipework, and of course the mains water coming in. By opening various valves on the unit, I can flush mains pressure water through either the flow or the return pipework, and then watch that water coming out down a drain. In this case, the kitchen sink. I would then close all the radiator valves on the system, leaving one open, which I then flush that mains water through the radiator until the water becomes clean. As I'm flushing the mains water through the radiator, I give it a tap with a rubber mallet to help dislodge any little bits of magnetite that might be stuck in the radiator. And then I go around the entire system, flushing out each radiator one at a time, making sure the entire system is nice and clean. Now, in this house they have microbore pipework, and the radiators downstairs, the flow through them is virtually non-existent. Now, these 4 radiators downstairs, I have both the valves on each side fully open, and all 4 radiators are turned on. And yet, with mains pressure water being forced through these 4 radiators, this is the maximum amount of flow of water that's going through them, which I know is absolutely useless. These 4 radiators won't get hot at all. So there's definitely some kind of blockage. Now, the question is, where is that blockage? Now, I took an educated guess here. There's the boiler at the end of the kitchen. And if I look down the kitchen, I can see there's some boxwork there going up through the ceiling, which probably means that the pipework for downstairs is most likely in a similar position. Now as it turns out, the pipework which I needed to get to was underneath the fridge. And luckily the homeowner was going to change the floor in the kitchen, so they were happy for me to cut the line out with a knife. And this is what I'm looking for, where the 22mm pipework reduces down to that 8mm microbore pipework. So now I need to work out which is the flow pipe and which is the return pipe. You can easily tell this if your central heating is working okay, because the flow pipe will always be hotter. Now what's most likely happened is when the central heating has been running, bits of Magnetite, that's that black stuff which you find inside central heating systems, which also is the enemy of your system, that sticks to the inside of your pipework, and then over time it can break off and then float around the system, and it gets caught in anything it can get stuck in, and in particular we don't want it getting into the boiler. That's why we now fit magnetic filters on every new installation. So I've now decided that the right hand pipe is the flow pipe, and I think bits of magnetite have gone down this float pipe, got to the end where it reduces down to the 8mm, and then it's then got stuck in the end, and gradually over time that's got worse and worse. So now I'm using my 22mm pipe slice and I'm cutting through the pipe. And in a second I'm going to cut through the pipe, and then I'm going to put a 22mm blanking plug onto the end of the pipe to stop water from gushing out underneath the floor. And there we go, I've cut through the pipe, and I'm going to get my 22mm cap and just cap off that flow pipe. Now I'm just going to freeze the video right there. You can see that the water is not flowing out of that pipe as a clean stream, meaning even at this point the pipe is partially blocked. And there we go, that's that pipe now capped off. If we look on the ground, we can see lots of little bits of black magnetite which have just come out of that bit of pipework. Now luckily microbore pipework is quite flexible, so I'm just going to bend this up and pull it up above the floor so I can look down inside the pipe. And what do we see when we look inside the pipe? Lots and lots of bits of magnetite, and this is definitely our blockage. Now I'm just going to get a screwdriver and just poke it down inside here and pull some of those little bits out just to show you what we got inside here. See all these little bits inside here? And this bit of 22mm pipework is about 4 inches long. So there's 4 inches of magnetite right the way up to where it reduces down to the 8mm. Now I'm actually finding it quite hard to push my screwdriver down inside there. The magnetite is properly wedged down inside there. And that's why I couldn't flush it out when I used the reverse flow on my flushing device, because the magnetite inside here has become like a solid block. So I'm going to use my water vacuum, suck up all that water and magnetite until we got a nice clean pipe. I'm just going to quickly jump in here and introduce myself. My name is Mark Ballard and I've been a gas engineer for 30 years. The aim of my channel is to help you with your gas boilers and your central heating. If you find this video at all useful, then please give me a little bit of feedback by clicking on that thumbs up or the subscribe, and that will help others to find the video. And of course you can share the video with your friends. If you visit my website, I've categorized all my videos on products and parts that I recommend so you can easily find what you're looking for. And I'd like to say a really big thank you to everybody who's bought me a cup of coffee and left me a donation in my Toolbox fund. It's really appreciated, and it does really help me to make more videos which will hopefully help you. Now this does actually take a good few minutes of me poking my screwdriver down there, dislodging that magnetite, and then it gets sucked up inside the vacuum. And there's no other way of doing this. It's just a case of cleaning it out until we got a nice clean bit of pipework. In the worst case scenario, I'd have to cut the pipework out completely. And I didn't want to be doing that. Now you can see this screwdriver, if I push it all the way in, it's going to go right down into the pipes. And that's what I'm doing. I'm poking it down inside the pipework there, and I'm pushing it into each of the microbore pipes, giving it a good wiggle around while sucking it out with the water vacuum. Now I'm getting somewhere. I can actually see each of the microbore pipes down inside that bit of pipework there. Now I'm going to put my vacuum over the top of the pipe, and I'm going to go to my flushing device and I'm going to open up the valves that's going to flush water around the system in reverse. So I'm slowly going to open up this valve, and that's going to let mains water pressure go down the return pipe, flowing around the system backwards. And the water is going to be coming out of the pipe which I've just been cleaning out. So I'm going to go and take a look and see how clean that water is and how well it's flowing out of that pipe. And there we go, that looks pretty good now. With the mains water flushing through the system backwards, I'm then going to do the same process again. Poke out each little pipe, make sure that all of them are completely clear. And there we go, that's all 4 pipes now checked and they're nice and clear. I'm now going to turn the valve back off again, then I can go back and check the pipe and see how clean it looks now. It's pretty tricky to show you, but they are all nice and clean now. Before I go connecting these pipes back together, I need to flush out this flow pipe. Look and see how much magnetite there is still up inside this flow pipe. So there's loads of it in this bit of pipe. I'm now going to repeat that process with the flow pipe. Now you can see now the water stopped coming out. See all that magnetite that's inside there. So I'm going to get my vacuum and put it onto the pipe and then open up the flow valve and let water wash through that 22mm pipe and hopefully clean out all that magnetite which is inside there. Now let's go and take a look and see how well that water's going through. I can see my tube of my vacuum moving around as it sucks up the water. Now let's take a look and see how well the water's flowing through this bit of flow pipe. And that looks pretty good. It looks like all that magnetite's been washed out. So let's take a look inside the vacuum and see what that water looks like. Well, that looks all pretty black. Now I'm going to pour it down a drain. And there you go, there's all the little bits of magnetite at the bottom of my vacuum there. Now the vacuum's broken a lot of it up because quite a few bits were quite big chunky pieces of magnetite which have been stuck to pipes and broken off. So I've now just cleaned the end of this pipe here up, made it nice and shiny, and I've also cleaned the pipe underneath the floor, and I'm going to join it back together with a PolyPlumb Straight Push Fit Connector. Now I'm just checking with the mirror to make sure that the pipe has not got any scratches or anything which could cause the pipe to leak. Now I'm just going to get a little bit of silicone grease and rub it around the pipework. You don't have to do this, but I always put a little bit of silicone grease on just to help the fitting make a good seal. Now a 22mm pipe slice has cut this 22mm pipe and left a bit of a sharp edge, and I don't really want to put the fitting straight onto it because it might damage the O-ring. What I like about PolyPlumb fittings is you can take them apart and you can put the O-ring onto the pipework without pushing it over the top of the sharp edge of the pipe. That way you know that the O-ring is not going to get damaged. So I've added some silicone grease and now I can just pop the O-ring on and then push the fitting onto the pipe. And there we go, and I know 100% that that is going to be a good joint and not leak. Now I'm going to repeat the process with the other end of the pipe. So I'll put a bit of grease on, I've slipped the O-ring on. Now it's just a case of carefully lining up the fitting and pushing it onto the pipe. And I can always just take the fitting apart again just to make sure that everything has gone together correctly. Then I can just do up the fitting and we know we are all good. And there we go, make sure it's good and tight. Time for a quick cup of tea. I think that's a job well done. And now I'm going to check and see how good the flow is around these 4 radiators. So let's just open up my mains water in and the return out and see what comes out of the hose. So there we go, that looks much better now. I've got a decent amount of flow through these 4 radiators. And the water is still pretty clear. That's much better. That's the kind of flow I was expecting. I can now finish my flushing process properly by closing each of the radiator valves and leaving the one radiator open. That's going to be the whole radiator. So that's got all the flow going through it. Now I'm going to go back and check to make sure that I've still got a decent flow through here. And there we go, that's not too bad. Again, the water is nice and clear. Having said that, you can still see little bits of magnetite being washed out. I can swap my valves around and make the water flow through the system backwards. I'll leave that flowing for a few minutes and just make sure that it is all nice and clear. And there we go, I'm on my last radiator now in the kitchen and it's going to turn that fully on and flush this radiator through as well. And finally, once I'm happy, I've now opened up all the radiators on the system, and you can see how much better that flow is through the system, and look how clear the water is. This system is really nice and clean. Now I can remove my flushing device, so that's the return pipe removed, and now I'm going to take a look at the Magna clean, make sure that is nice and clean, and there you go. You can see there's a few bits of Magnetite on there like I was expecting. So I'll give that a clean and put it back together. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to add some X100 inhibitor into the central heating system to protect the system against corrosion and a few other things. Again, I've made this little tool up here, and I just screw that onto the cap of the inhibitor, and then I can just inject the X100 directly into the central heating system. I've still got one of my flushing pipes connected on, that's the flow pipe, and now I can open up that flow valve, and that will create a siphon effect and then suck the inhibitor into the central heating system. I'll close the flow valve on the flushing unit and remove the inhibitor pot. I then use a 50mm compression cap and just pop it onto that little tail there and do up the nut and make sure it's nice and tight. And now I can remove the rest of my flushing tool. Now this is the Ecotech Pro, so it has an external filling loop. If you had a Plus or other boilers, you may find the filling loops on the boiler, and then I'll just add additional tails to the pipework. Final bit of topping up, and that's it. The new boiler is fitted and the central heating system is now hot. And this customer is really happy because the last couple of years the downstairs radiators have not been hot at all. But now all 4 radiators downstairs are hot to the top. So that was an unexpected problem which I came up against when installing this new boiler, because the customers never told me that the radiators downstairs didn't get hot. Right, that's about it then. So I do hope my video has been helpful to you if you had that blockage in your pipework. If you want to check out some of my other videos, there's some links just there. As usual, please give me a click on the old thumbs up and click on the subscribe and share it with anyone else who might be interested. And of course, a big thank you to everybody who's left me a small donation in my toolbox fund. It is really appreciated. Bye for now, and I hope to see you in the next video.